Buckle up for AEC Trailblazers, the Founders Files, where we crack open the stories of the brightest minds in the AEC startup scene. Forget institutional pitches. We're diving deep into the real personal journeys of these industry disruptors. Get ready for some casual chats firsthand.
Hello, and welcome everybody to another episode of the AEC Trailblazers podcast, where we interview the most amazing founders of the tech scene of the AEC. Today, we have George Smithies. He's a seasoned engineer with more than 15 years of experience. George founded Index in 2018. This innovative platform streamlines construction project management and enhances workforce connectivity. Recognized as one of Forbes 30 Under 30, amazing, George is a member of the Institute of Civil Engineers and holds a master's degree in civil engineering. Outside work, George holds a ship shearing qualification, a testament to his rural upbringing in West Wales. I'm going to ask a lot of questions about that later. And then when he's not focused on construction technology, he enjoys training for endurance events like Ironman triathlons. George, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. What an intro. I'm sure we'll talk more about the sheep shearing than anything else today.
There's so many questions I want to ask about, but sheep shearing is the first one. Like, how are you doing that?
Yeah, no, well, look, I'm a farmer's son from West Wales, okay? So cut me some slack. I would say, summer holidays, typically you go on, your old camping holidays and things like that. Whereas I was sent up into the hills to go and bag myself some really important qualifications to further my career, No, I think, to be honest with you, it's more that I think the old man just wanted to save a few quid when we needed to shear the sheep.
We all do it. When you have kids, that's the best way, just to save a little bit of money. But now you have an impressive bio just because of that. So you have to be grateful with your old man, all that.
No, you're not wrong. I think that probably got me my first job, to be honest. It was brought up. I put it on the CV because, you've always got to have a talking point when you turn up to an interview. And that was certainly talked about. So, yeah.
Hey, that's a really good tip, man. Just always adding something really interesting it can be fun at the same time on the resume. No, I like it.
Decoy.
Decoy. Yeah. It's like 90% of the talk is always towards that, and then just 10% of like, what do you do? What do you like to do? Your weaknesses, and then you get a job.
Exactly.
But then after your amazing career at ship shearing, you moved to London. What do you study? How is the beginnings of George?
Yeah, sure. So I didn't quite make it to London the first time. I made it to Cardiff, which is still just inside Wales, and studied civil engineering there. And that's actually where I met my co-founder, Aaron. We were both on the same course there. And then did a master's in civil engineering, which they call it a fat sandwich here in the UK, where you basically go and do a year working for a company in year 3. So I came up to London then, and that was actually during the London 2012 Olympics. So got to see a bit of that for a year and got excited about the whole sort of London lifestyle. Went back for another 2 years and then got myself back up here again for well, I'm still here now. So obviously, must be ticking some boxes.
You like it. The best weather in the world. So I bet is
You know it. This year's been proof of it. I think we've had the wettest August on record, or I don't know, for at least sort of 10 years or something like that. So no, it's certainly been it's certainly been the London that we all expect.
It's just, like I even lived in London for a couple of months, and I've traveled to London many times, and it's just weird because every time I go there, the weather is really good. So I just say
good.
It because people say it. So to be honest, every time I've been there is not a bad weather, to be honest. So
That's great to hear. That's great to hear. That's a compliment for us guys.
Yeah. I bet, but then and you started like working on the construction when you moved. I don't know, the first time or the second time after the Olympics. What type of construction process you used to work when you were not a tech founder but an actual civil engineer?
Yeah, no, sure. So I used to work mainly in sort of the rail and road sort of proper infrastructure type construction. So the first job I ever worked on was a big depot, a train depot up in North London, which basically houses all of the trains for a line that basically stretches most of the country, sort of north to south. So we built that, and then stayed in the rail division, sort of moved around some other rail projects over in East London. So I spent a few years doing that. After I left the first company I was working for, I went and worked for a few others on some not so interesting projects, and then I ended up going down onto Crossrail, which I'm sure you've heard of. It was the biggest project in Europe at the time. Most of the headlines weren't very nice to read. I was down on Bond Street Station, and if I'm totally honest with you, that's where I really decided that there's something that we should be doing with technology. So that's where the original sort of ideas came from, and talking with Aaron, my co-founder, around this, who was working not so much in the infrastructure game, more in the tall buildings within sort of central London. He was coming across the same issues with efficiently getting people onto site, but obtaining all of the critical sort of information on those individuals and the competency and the skills and the experience behind them to basically understand, who they are and whether or not they should be actually on these projects and delivering these projects. Were they capable? So that's where sort of Index was really ideated, I guess. Took a little longer to obviously come through into where we are today. Good few years, sort of pondering the idea and trying to work out how we were going to stitch it all together. But that was definitely the sort of the starting point. I did continue working within construction for a couple of other contractors, probably another year after that, but mainly focused on the sort of the railroad and civil infrastructure parts of construction.
I know that you were, like you said, you were suffering a lot, and that's where you saw the opportunity of like, hey, why don't start my own company? But at the time, did you have previous experience with, I don't know, tech companies or creating a startup, or how was it for you to just decide to do it? Because you had experience, or you just were bold and decided, you know what, I'm just going to do it?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question. So I guess there's two sort of parts to this story. The first part is that I have to admit it, when I was working in construction, I was not sort of tech savvy, so to speak. I wasn't really someone there who was, really pushing boundaries with new technologies. I would use the technologies there, but I was much more interested in, being out on the construction site and really working with the supply chain to deliver the projects, on budget, on time, you would hope. Obviously, that Crossrail experience, not so much, but the projects sort of prior to that were much better projects. The second part of the story then, so in terms of business and doing things like that, so it's quite a funny one, and it goes back to my days on the farm basically, and being a friend at about the age of, I think we were 13, we decided that there was quite a busy road next door to the farm, and we thought, well, we're growing potatoes in a couple of fields down. What if we go and pick some of those potatoes? And they weren't mine to go and pick, they were the dad's potatoes and my dad's potatoes. So we went and picked the potatoes and started selling them on the side of the road. And that quite quickly turned into, you'd think, that's, make a couple of quid there, but actually turned into something that was quite a profitable little sort of business. And we quite quickly took that not just on the farm gate. We did a whole lot of branding around the packaging, and this was, it took a couple of years to develop this product that then went into shops and it's still operating today at the farm gate, but also in various local sort of shops and communities and things like that. And that was the first, I guess, go at doing business, but nothing compared to what we're doing today. So no experience. I would love to call it that. I'd love to say that we were bold and confident, but I'd probably say maybe just a bit stupid and a bit sort of really trying our luck. It was very much let's build something on the side and let's see if we can make things happen. There was never really let's go and pull together a business plan and go and work out, how financially viable this is and whether or not this can work. It was much more of this would be really helpful. Let's go and build it and let's see what happens. And luckily, it paid off, and here we are today.
I wish your dad at least got a little bit of money out of the potato business, and you just taking the profit out of potatoes that were not yours. But besides that, I don't think that not having experience when putting together a business is something that it's a problem. For sure, it's nice to have. Yeah, if you have already founded and sold 3 startups previously to starting one, yeah, that's pretty useful. But I don't think it's a problem or it's a must. The biggest corporations out there been founded by people like Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos, and those were their first businesses they did. So I don't think it's a problem at all. And kudos for you for being bold. And I do feel that we need more of that on the whole industry. Like a lot of people when they get out of college, whether they are a civil engineer or an architect or a structural engineer, you're always taught to do the same, right? Like being an architect, you have to do design. Being a structural engineer, you have to do structural calculation. Civil engineer, just go build a bridge or something like that. But no one teaches what, you can still be a civil engineer. The difference is that you're going to own a company that helps other civil engineers or other constructions, and the scale and the impact is going to be much bigger. For sure, it's much harder, and you need to be, like you said, a little bit crazy to do it. But I feel it pays off. Even if you fail the first time you try, it's going to pay off eventually. I don't know if you get the same feeling.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. It does take a little bit of, right, you just got to go and do it and just get off your feet and stray away from the normal, which, everybody, finds quite difficult. If you've got this career and you can see where you're going and it's very almost regimented in terms of when you're a civil engineer, any sorts of careers like this, you know what you're aiming for before you start, whereas when you're building a business, you don't know what you're aiming for, especially when you've not done one before. But I think that almost, it plays into your strengths as well, because if you don't know what's around the corner, how can how can that concern you, and how can you worry too much about that? You've got to take each day as they come. I think so long as you can quickly learn and adapt, that is the key, I would say, to being able to build something that's actually can withstand the test of time and can be successful, is that, you might change things radically through the sort of over the years, and that's absolutely fine, but it's being able to just make the decision to change it quick enough. That's the difference between, I would say, it becoming a success or not. Many businesses, you look at, you just mentioned, Bezos there, and, he started a book business. He was selling books, and now look at what it is, although it was the same original sort of business, I guess, plan, it's very, very different from what it was back then. And, you look at our business, we can't even compare it to what Amazon is, but it started somewhere that was very niche and very small, and we naturally found an organic way to move into different areas and give ourselves a really nice solid foundation to move forward and continue to move forward with.
No, I agree, and I think what you're saying is it's something that happens on every startup, pivot, like every startup pivots, because you need to adapt. Even if you're a big corporation, like, Facebook, to try to do, VR and the metaverse, and you need to keep adjusting to the market or to your clients' needs, or like I think it's a must. So I think it's a great tip. But changing gears a little bit, typically when you see AC startups in general, we did a study, right, of the different AC startups in the market and the countries, and we saw that most startups are concentrated on the design phase of the construction of building, and it makes sense, not because it's the place where most money is wasted. We know construction is the place where most money is wasted, but I feel it is because it's what you know, right? If you're an architect, you know about the design phase. So and it's much more easier to automate, the design of a house when you need to create a platform and then show another architect how to use the platform, right? Compared to the site, right? When you create a platform and then you might have to deal with a person that has never used a computer, I feel that that's why too many companies are being focused on the design phase and not too many on the construction where the main problems happen. And that's why I feel really interesting what you guys are doing. And if you faced any troubles at the beginning, or how was that process of not dealing with, not only with, white collar architects or engineers who are all day in the computer, but also get your hands dirty and allow people who are on the field building stuff.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's really interesting. It's an interesting observation there. That it's heavily sort of weighted in the design phase. I guess, the difference between the design and the construction phase is that the construction phase is an ever-changing environment. You've got wind and rain to deal with as one factor. You've got, services in the ground that may not be known, uncharted services, these sorts of things. There's always different things going on. And also, and you just alluded to it there, you've got a lot more people involved in that construction phase with a massive skills range and ability and qualification and experience and just everything about the people going and delivering that job, which, you've got to remember, people make up sort of, anywhere between sort of 40 and 60% of a project cost. It's the people going and delivering those costs. So it's a massive, massive part of the construction phase. And we as people, we're not very predictable quite often, and we can go off and we can do, whatever we decide to do on a Monday or a Wednesday or a Friday, So it's much harder to, and I don't like the word control, but it is much harder to manage, I guess, is probably a better word for it. In terms of where we've sort of seen, where we really saw a niche and where we thought that there was an opportunity to disrupt the sort of the market within construction, is the ability for everybody to use this one system. We always felt as though there was a lot of technology in the marketplace that was catered to a certain part of that sort of the project or the construction team. So, you had really good commercial tools for your quantity surveyors, your commercial department. Like you said, you've got very good design tools. You've got very good planning tools. We've always had great planning tools. But we didn't feel as though there's ever really anything that catered for the bulk of those people who actually come and deliver these jobs. If you look at percentage wise, a maximum of 10% are the people who are in the office doing office things, so to speak. 90% and up are the people actually delivering the jobs, and they have never really been given technology in their hands to allow them to make their lives easier, make their lives more efficient, all these sides of it. So that was where we really wanted to target. And the biggest issue around that is that they're not your buyers of your technology, right? So we're creating something that makes their lives easier, but we're not selling our product to them. So it's a way of being able to sell to the people who have buying power and have money to spend in that project team, whilst also balancing the fact that if you can give value to the people on the ground, they're then going to generate that data and that what these people in the office need to then make it worthwhile. But that takes time, right? And it's the same with everything. You sell something in and you want to create a short-term ROI from that product, and then you want to also have that long-term ROI. And the long-term ROI that's the be-all and end-all, because that makes you become this sticky product that people enjoy using, want to use, want to take to their next project. That's also, rolling into another sort of question that we're quite often asked is, when you're building a business, and everybody loves to sell SaaS enterprise, okay? And the biggest problem that people perceive within construction is that it's very project driven when you're in that construction phase. You're getting a contract with one project and you're just hoping that they're going to then move on to the next project and take you with them. So that's something that you have to really, try and mitigate that loss of contract when people move between different projects. So it's quite an interesting thing that, I quite often speak about with fellow founders in our sector.
So many great points. I feel it's interesting that what you brought about when you have a product that basically you have to sell it to one stakeholder, but then the ones who are going to get the benefit are others, or the users, that we can call it the users. Like the users are going to be others, and it's hard because if you're selling, I don't know, like a design tool or a management tool for the director of the construction side, it's much more easier because you sell it to that person. That person goes up to, I don't know, a director or a BC and ask, or a VP and ask, hey, just give me money for this. I feel it's much harder when the ones who are going to get the benefit don't have a voice in terms of like when the one responsible for making the purchase is going to decide it, right? So I bet that's much harder than other companies, and I'm just curious, what's the strategy? Do you actually bring people, users, and testimonies from users and show it, or I bet you use a lot of data, or how's the typical sales process works in your case?
Yeah, definitely. Look, it's very testimonial driven, and almost that effects, these sort of ripple effects that you get when people are moving between jobs. Yeah, the average person in a sort of an office type job within construction will move projects every sort of 18 months, whereas people actually delivering projects out on the ground, they can be moving projects every couple of weeks. So the effect that you can get from that positive sort of feel from the people down on the ground can have that ripple effect a lot quicker throughout the industry. Now, it's great. One of the best bits of feedback actually we've ever had is that I had someone, this was quite early doors to be fair, they phoned us up and they said, just been doing an induction, and a gentleman's come up to us and said, why are we using paper induction forms? Why are we not using Index? And he was like, what the hell is Index? What do you want about? He said, oh, it's this platform, and he showed it to him. He's telling me all this on the phone. It was incredible. I was there thinking, wow, this is really cool. And he was flicking through it and showing him the whole profile and how it's all done. And then, there he is phoning me up, that afternoon saying, I want to see this. My people on the ground have told us about it. And if people on the ground are telling us, you're on to something there. Now, it doesn't solve the problem. You're never going to be able to grow quick enough just by having that sort of that effect from the sort of ground up. So of course you need to provide analytics and dashboarding and understanding of what that data is and what it's telling you. And if I wind back to my days working for contractors, I would find myself at the end of each month having to generate reports and dashboards for senior management. And I can tell you now, none of that data was automated. None of it came from any other system. It was a case of having to go through, grab data from other people's spreadsheets, go and tally up numbers from the sign-in book. Don't go and do all of this sort of stuff and then put it in a dashboard and give it to the board for presenting. So what we do is we allow that to automatically happen, and the board, as soon as they sign up to Index, they get that dashboard, and it is telling them live today how many people they've got out on their projects. Yeah, how many observations have been raised? Like, what's the number of ratio of first aiders to workforce out on the job? And these are all really sort of seem like very small little bits of information, but they're crucial in managing risk across projects. Because if you've got a portfolio of 200 projects, there is no chance in hell that you're going to be able to pick up the phone to every single person running all of those projects and check that everything's okay. You want to be able to click a button, see everything, be happy, go back to actually going and doing your job. And that's then the value that you get up the chain. That's the value that we give.
That makes sense. And I feel that relates also with what you said about the nature of our industry, right? That we're a project-based industry. And it's not like other industries, like, for example, I don't know, even software development itself, that you do by project, but at the same time, the time frames are much shorter, right? The time span is much different in terms of, like, hey, you might develop something in 3 months. Construction projects are typically last from 1 year to the infinite, right? Like, or 100 years if you consider Sagrada Familia in Barcelona or something like that, right? But it takes a lot of time, and I don't think that happens. That never happens in any other industry, and it's also complex because you mentioned that, like, stakeholders change. So it not only the project is new, it takes a lot of time. You need to put together a new team every time you go for a project. So it's extremely complex. I don't think that that's something you get in any other industry. But I do feel that there are so many specific situations that other platforms don't take into account. Like you said, for example, like, how do you charge companies? And these big corporations like Autodesk, Trimble, like Hexagon, they all charge by license. And companies are not happy about it. Like, they want alternatives because, hey, I'm paid by project and you want me to pay a fee every month. What happens in the in-between where I don't have any projects, or when I have to fire people because suddenly I don't have this huge project and I only have a couple of small projects? And they don't take into account that, and I feel it's a problem. And the same applies with the way of management. I've seen a lot of construction companies trying to implement, like, HR tools that are made for, I don't know, manufacturing industries, or are made for managing people on an office, which are always the same people. You don't have to onboard people every week or every day.
Yeah.
And I think you bring that problem, and it's something that's still happening. So that's why I like what you guys are doing in that sense. You're doing something specific for our industry, and I bet people see the benefits, like the one you mentioned, that it was telling their bosses, like, why you're doing the onboarding with paper when you can just use Index.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And one of the big things as well, and we started quite niche, I think, like I said earlier on, with that sort of that induction process. But what we quite quickly realized is that everybody who comes onto this site now has to go through this process. So they're being onboarded into this environment, right? And if we can say, well, actually, we can add other tools into that environment, and whether that's directly through Index or through some integrations with other construction technology companies, it doesn't matter, but they're in that one environment where they haven't got the excuse that, I didn't know which app I was meant to be doing that in. They can do their whole day job, the people out there delivering their projects, in this one environment, and it can push all that data into whatever other system is required for your commercial team and for your health and safety team or whoever else, and they can stay in their own little environments. And I think that's critical to moving our industry forward. The biggest problem that I have with the way in which we sometimes run our business, and we constantly review this, is that we've got so many different systems, and it becomes confusing when you're trying to onboard a new starter, and you're right. This is the list of systems that we've got, and you use it for this system for one thing and this system for two things. If you can create an environment where an individual can come into a project and they only have to stay within one environment or maybe a couple of environments, but then other teams can stay in different environments where the data flows freely between them, then you've got both a fully connected workforce, but also a less frustrated workforce because they're not having to jump between different systems.
That's really interesting. And what do you think are the differences between creating a platform for people in the office versus for people that are on the job site? Are there any specifics that, let's say, you need to start all over again, right? And you can keep your knowledge, and you need to create two platforms: one for civil engineers and who are in an office designing something, and not the civil engineers on the field, and another one for people on the job site. Which do you think are the biggest differentiator that you need to take into account when you're building a platform for one or the other?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, look, people out in the field, the simplicity. It's quick, easy, limited clicks of the button, big buttons, very, very clear, nothing to... You want a system that you don't need to learn how to use. It just flows and it works from one end to the other, and it's very, very simple. In the office, completely different. If you think about commercial teams and project managers and people like that, they like using Excel. So don't, recreate what Excel sort of is. Yes, create a tech product that is a better version of Excel, so you're not moving spreadsheets around, but have something that is that same feel. It's a bit more sort of technical to use, and yes, you might need training on it to understand the intricacies of it, what you can do with all of your different bits within that system. But I would say simplicity is number one. For the job site, you can't go wrong if you've got something that's just really simple to use. That's a very simple answer there, right? But honestly, I think that is number one rule.
No, that makes sense. And in terms of the roadmap, whether it is index roadmap or how you feel the industry is going to change in the future related to workforce management, what do you see that is going to happen in the coming years? Robots, not people in the site anymore, or better management? What would it is going to happen in the near future?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think, yes, we will have robots for certain things, but I don't think that it's going to negate the need for people on our construction sites. I think people are going to become more strategists around everything that happens. So, you might still have bricklayers, but those bricklayers will be looking at how they're going to more efficiently serve the bricklaying robot and how they can move materials around and use logistics and use technologies to help things happen more and more efficiently. But we're not actually going to remove the people from actually going and doing that thinking and doing the sort of the hard work. Yes, of course, robots are intelligent, AI, all this sort of stuff it's happening and it's really exciting. But I think the ever-changing environment in which construction is, it's going to happen a little slower than maybe more of our standard sort of industry, not standard industries, but maybe simpler industries that are more uniform, and we know we're going from A to B to C to D. Construction goes A to Z to F to G. It goes. We don't know what's happening next.
No, and it makes sense. Like I do feel that sometimes, and I used to be one of those that used to say, you know what, our industry moves too slow, and for sure it can always be better, but I don't think it's moving that slow. I think it's just following the nature of the industry that you need to wait for the next project to happen that is going to take a couple of years, and for you to implement something. And when you have that problem, you cannot buy software in the middle of the construction side and manage the whole project in a different way in the middle of the process. You have to wait until it's the end of the project, and then you're gonna test it in one project, and you want to finish that project, so then you can start it in another one. And that's the nature of our industry. I don't think that's gonna change. I think projects might be faster, yes, but we will still be a little bit slower than other industries because it's the nature of our industry to work like that. And I don't think it's a problem. Otherwise, nobody wants to live in a building that was built in, 5 days, and it might be risky to live in. It is what it is, right? I don't know if you think the same way, or you just say, oh,
yeah,
I think
yeah.
what you're saying.
No, I agree. At the end of the day, you go into manufacturing plants and you put some new technology into there, and within, you'd hope, a week, a month, 3 months, you'd be able to make a decision whether or not, right, this is good investment, I want to put it across all of my manufacturing plants. Like you just said with construction, early stages, and you're going in and doing your GI reporting, the technology you're going to bring in and do that initial sort of site investigation, is that going to be useful for when we're putting the foundations into the ground? Is it going to be useful when we're then putting in the sort of the superstructure? Is it going to be useful whilst we're snagging the sort of the job at the sort of the back end? And like you say, it's really hard to make the decision on whether or not that technology has added value until you've completed that job, which again could be a year, 2, 5, 10, 100 years, to your reference earlier. So I agree. I think that it's been said that it moves very slowly. I don't think it does. It's a very exciting place to be right now. It's 10% of the world's GDP, for goodness sakes. It's not going to change overnight.
Yeah, it's 17 if you also add real estate to the mix. So that's what I always say, to make it bigger. But it's true. Like, real estate is all related with construction in the end. So I always say it's 17.
It's a big chunk either way.
Yeah. It's a big chunk anyway. But I always say that to make it look even larger.
I love that.
Yeah, but I also think it's a good thing for startups, because sales cycles are gonna be larger than other industries. But at the same time, once a company decides to implement your platform, you're gonna have a client for a long time. So on the other side, it's really good for startups that have the patience to be here to work with clients, to get traction. And if you're patient enough, you're gonna get a return of investment compared to like I always say the example of Procore, right? The CRM platform, that it took them 10 years to start growing. Now they're a unicorn. Yeah, absolutely. But it took them 10 years. And I think it's the time it takes in our industry, unfortunately. But at the same time, it's a more stable industry. So, there are good things on that as well. But I don't want to take you more of your time, George. I know you're a busy person, but before we wrap this up, can I ask you a couple of ping pong questions?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Can you say a great AC software?
Met a guy yesterday. I was talking about a company called Glider Technologies. Check it out. Really, really interesting. And the part of construction that I would say it's always a problem. I used to hate it, but they've got a really cool solution. So yeah, worth having a look.
Interesting. Yeah. What do you think is the next big trend in the AC?
Depends on your time frames. I would say next 5 years is definitely AI coming through. I think that robotics is going to take a bit longer to really sort of happen. I think, like we said before, our industry's a bit further behind everybody else. So I think we'll probably just follow the same cycle as as everybody else, but maybe 10 years later.
That makes sense. Wise words. And if you could collaborate with any person in history, which person would you choose?
I'm probably going to be a bit of a geek here and say Isambard Kingdom Brunel. Probably know the guy. I hope you know the guy. Very famous civil engineer.
But just be aware, I just know it because I'm a geek of construction, but he's not
love it.
known.
Oh, come on.
Architects are more well known than civil engineers. Sorry about that. Interesting. And then what's your favorite building in the world, and have you ever visited?
Oh, bloody hell. Favorite building in the world. I really would love to go and see the Taj Mahal. That's on the plan to go and see actually in a couple of months. So yeah, that's probably one. But I think what just pips it, and next time you're in London, you need to go and see it. It's called Hackney Wick Station in East London. And it was one of my projects, and I'm very proud of it.
Okay, that counts. You can even just say your farm in Wales. Like anything counts. But for sure, I will let you know next time I'm in London, so you can point me in the direction to see the building you.
Please do. We'll go for a beer next door after.
Yeah. That you got me at beers. And I'm happy you didn't say the walkie-talkie, man. I'm just happy you didn't say the
walkie-talkie. No way.
All right. And before we say goodbye to each other, can you tell everybody where they can know more about Index, or where they can contact you?
Yeah, cool. So, I mean, our main place is probably LinkedIn. We're pretty sort of vocal on there, and we like to chuck out lots of interesting. Well, we hope it's interesting. We think it's interesting. Yeah, about what we're up to. Our team, we like to be as sort of interactive as possible on there, and try and make it all a bit fun as well. We're serious people doing a serious building a serious business, but at the same time, we're all people, and we're all trying to have fun whilst we do that as well.
All right. Thanks so much for sharing what you guys are doing, George. I really love it, and I do think we need more solutions that actually target the construction phase, and that helps the majority of the people involved in the construction project who are workers. So thanks for what you guys are doing, helping our industry. I hope to learn and see more about Index in the future. All right.
Oh, brilliant. No, thanks for reaching out, and it's been an absolute pleasure, and maybe we can do it again sometime. But yeah, thanks for all the questions. It was good fun.
Absolutely. And looking forward to the painting when I visit London. Right?
Good man. Good stuff. Thanks,
right. Have a great day, man.
Nice one. Take it easy. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks to our listeners. If you like this content, you can find past and upcoming episodes in ascworks.everse.com and at all of our Everse social media. We'd love to hear from you and recommendations for new content, so leave us a DM and we'll make sure to catch it.